you know, I realized doing this, it really takes more than one person to write a book. You know, people call themselves authors. I call myself an author.
Yeah.
But it took many people to write and publish this book. I don't think any one person can do it alone. And I was working at it for, well, over 30 years. It was a dream. I had a lot written, wrote professional manuals for other therapists, but never wrote a self-development, self-help book like this. And it was really a dream. And Peter helped me realize that. He really got me writing and helped me get it written. And yeah, I want to acknowledge you for that, Peter. I really want to thank you for your sincerity, hard work, butt kicking, and the deep insight that you brought to it. You really helped make it a reality.
Well, thanks, Paul. It was so much fun. It's hard to believe I get paid for doing that kind of work, but it's also educational. I learned so much, and it's wonderful working with a gifted teacher who's also a practitioner. Kind of feel like I'm working with one of the high lamas of consciousness.
You know, there are a lot of practices in the book. The idea of the book is that I give you a lot of the skills and tools that I developed over the years and learned from others, so that you can do them for yourself. And Peter was often one of the guinea pigs to kind of try out the practices and see what happened as he went through it. You know, it was, help me refine them, right?
Yeah, I needed more healing than most people, so you know, I was a good guinea pig.
Yeah. One of the other people I really want to acknowledge and thank for this, because it never would have happened without her love and support, both in making me feel valued as a person, but also in reminding me to go back to writing and giving me the space, the time, the energy, the support, and the spiritual support too. And that's my wife, Sophia, who's here with us today.
Yay!
Thank you. It had to be born.
Yep.
There was no doubt about it. And sometimes we can do it by ourselves. So it was really, really important.
Yeah. And Sophia co-wrote chapter 6. She brought a really important element to the essential healing process, which is the ancestral healing, really working with what we bring in with us and what we inherit.
Yeah, when we did the workshops together, we realized what an essential and important piece systemic family therapy work is, or ancestral work. So we brought it into a chapter and into exercises, which for Peter also for a while was very challenging because they were rather lengthy. Yeah, but it was really interesting to contribute that way.
I think it's one of the major pieces missing from traditional therapy is realizing that there are many less tangible things that are affecting and influencing us. And so I'm really proud to have it in here and bring that more into the fore, both in the book and in our workshops.
Yeah.
There are a couple of other people that, did you want to say something more? Yeah? I didn't want to.
No, thank you. No, thank you.
When I was, after we had the book proposal done and a lot of the book written, we started going to publishers, and we went to a lot of publishers, and many of them were interested, but I didn't have a big enough platform. I didn't have a big enough email list is what it came down to, right? So it said, we love your book, but you're not famous enough for us. Right? But there was a publishing house in California, New Harbinger, run by Matt McKay, who lost his son, and had an LBL, and it was really a transformative experience for him. And I think it changed some of his perspective on life and on the world. I know it did on life and on the world. And when he saw my proposal, he grabbed it. He really wanted it. There were a couple of publishers that did, but he was really excited about it. And he took a risk on a new author, invested in the book, supported me, and Ryan Burrish, who's my main editor. He really backed us in writing it and helping us through the process. And that is one labyrinth, I guess you could call it. And Ryan was really there for us all the way. He really made the book all the much better. I don't know how many editors we had, Peter. I think between you, me, 2 editors at Harbinger, and Leslie, who's been my agent, very hands-on agent, also editing the book. Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's also instructive. You know, I love the concept of self-publishing. I have a self-published book myself on Kindle, but you really appreciate why a lot of self-published books that don't go through this very refined winnowing process with having different pairs of eyes and sensibilities looking over it and saying, well, you know, this is a cool idea, but it's not presented sharply enough, or this doesn't make sense, or, you know, just like at home when you want to do something one way and then your wife says, no, I think it would be better this way. And of course, I know you were right. I meant to say that. So it really is, it's a great process, a collaborative process. It truly is.
Yeah. And I want to thank all of you, clients, students, and readers, because the book doesn't have a lot of value unless someone reads it. And so much of what's in the book came from sitting in the chair across from one of you and being guided by spirit, or being inspired in the moment, or having you come up with something far more effective and amazing than I ever could have dreamed of. And so integrating those in the moment processes as we went along, and then incorporating them in the book, I think give the book a real depth, a real value, and it's full of valuable tools that you can use on a day-to-day basis for your own healing, your own personal development, and getting through some of the tough times like we've been through this past year. Some of the practices you may use once and then go on to the next one, and others, I'm certain, you're going to use them daily or frequently. I know I do. I mean, it isn't just information in the book, it's really a process. And I think even once you achieve and go through one of the practices, you can go back to it and you'll get even more out of it. But that's really the intention of it, is giving you tools and processes that you can use on your own.
Yeah, yeah.
And well, Billy, you were the first to review the book on Amazon.
Right.
And I appreciate that. Really beautiful contribution. And honestly, everybody, it really helps more people find the book. If you like it when you read it, if you'll either send me a review or put it up on Amazon, you don't have to buy the book from them to put a review on there. Billy didn't, and they accepted it. But the reviews really help people learn about the book and find out about it. So if you like it, I really want to encourage you to put something up there, and it makes it more available to more people.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and part of the process of getting the book published is you send the manuscript out to a number of people that you know or maybe don't even know, to ask them to endorse the book or to review the book. And Sophia knows there were some dream people on my list of people that I really admired throughout my career. And one of them that I thought, no, you know, Raymond Moody, he's so well known. He's pretty old now, he's retired, but it was his book, Life After Life, that inspired me so. And I think I was in high school when I read that book. It was really groundbreaking material on near-death experiences. He was a cardiologist that researched patients' fantastic stories about what happened when they were quote unquote dead. He was the first one to put this out there. I said, you know, as one of my clients said, what's the worst thing that could happen? if you ask. If you don't ask, you don't even have a chance, right? So I did a bit of research and found out who his assistant's name was and got in touch and didn't hear back. And anyway, wrote a couple of times and he was delighted to read the book. He's not so good with technical stuff, so he couldn't read it online. In the beginning, it's just a PDF. So we actually had to print a copy for Raymond Moody to read, and he did. And he wrote the most, I have to read you his endorsement. I'll read you the short version of it because I find it boring to listen to people reading. But Raymond Moody, you all know who he is? Just, if you don't, look him up. Brilliant man, groundbreaking. Paul Arendt's Essential Healing is a fine, practical guide to self-exploration. I like the author's workbook approach, and he offers fascinating text with plenty of consciousness-raising exercises. Right? I think, where were we? Oh, Sophia and I were out when this came in from him, and we both sat there and cried because it was such a dream come true that Raymond Moody would read and endorse this. Yeah, just beautiful. Yeah. And Bruce Grayson, who I got to know through the IANS, through the International Association of Near-Death Studies, hardcore psychiatrist and researcher with the University of Virginia. He encouraged me a couple of years ago, keep going with your work, keep going with your research. It's really interesting that your stuff that you're doing. Don't give up, keep at it. And he wrote, Paul Arendt's Essential Healing is a treasure trove of wisdom and practical advice for coping with pain and trauma, both emotional and physical. Right? And I see Bruce and Teresa here with us in Lisbon. And one of the other endorsers that I was most happy to get was really a result of Teresa's relationship with Bernie Siegel. She's been working with cancer patients for a long time as a psychotherapist in Lisbon. And she put me in touch with him. And Bernie Siegel, I mean, I love his work. His imagery is at the foundation of a lot of what I do. And that man inspired so many people and helped so many people heal from their condition, or at least deal with it if they weren't healing from it. And he writes, I should get Teresa to read it, really. He writes, Essential Healing is a gem. It's filled with the wisdom of life and our potential for healing. Read Essential Healing and use it as a textbook for self-learning and healing. I mean, what more could you ask for, right? And Teresa, thank you for helping make that happen.
Pleasure.
Yeah. Thanks for being here today, too. Yeah. Yeah. How many of you have the book and have read it?
I haven't gotten it yet.
Yeah.
I ordered it, but it still hasn't arrived.
Yeah, in Europe it's a bit slower.
Yeah, you know, Sweden.
Yeah. I think July 1st is the publication date. You'll get it before that, though.
Yeah.
In the US, they were saying June 1st, and it came about 2 weeks before that.
Okay.
But
we decided to get the Kindle edition so that we could have we could start reading before we got the actual books, because I know that it's going to take some time. So we decided to order both. We ordered the Kindle edition as well as the actual hardcover. So we'll get that probably in the next, I suppose, maybe in a week's time or two, because obviously it's going to take a bit longer. But in the meantime, we have the actual option to read on a laptop or on a tablet, which is nice. You know, we decided we didn't want to wait for the hardcover, so the best option would be to actually get it on a tablet.
well, when we see you, you'll get a signed one.
We look forward
I
to that.
do hope so.
Yeah, absolutely. So you want to hear a little bit about What's in the book? A little
That was
preview.
nice.
Yeah. So it's really a compilation of my 30 years doing the work that I've been doing. And it's full of practices, which are elements of sessions that I've done with people over the years. And there's a progression to it. I call it the layers, right? And so the idea is that the first step really is to get out of your busy mental mind. I call it the spinning merry-go-round of the mind, right? And so I think when we can be free of the limits of the mental mind, then we can begin to expand our consciousness. And as our consciousness expands beyond the limits of mental mind, a couple of very important things happen. And one is that we have a higher perspective. We can see things from a much more objective point of view, not so influenced by our mental mind and by our ego. It gives us a higher perspective. And that expanded consciousness allows us to connect with various parts of ourself and our guides and with spirit. And so one of the basic concepts of this process, this work, is that we all have it sort of upside down. We value our intellect. We value our education, and we need our intellect, and it's important to be educated and to educate. I'm an educator. But relying solely on our intellect or overly relying on it and our mental mind is problematic. I think that we have to come at it from a different angle. We have to go into our heart, our feeling heart, and trust more what we feel and what we know in our heart, and not stop there. Go even deeper within, expand consciousness even more, and connect with our very own inner wisdom. I call it soul, and I don't mean it in a religious term or terminology, but connect with that inner wisdom, with spirit. And I think that when we can operate from spirit and then heart, and then use our mental mind to decide how to implement what we get from spirit and from our heart, that things are in a much better order. Now, at first, I had difficulty listening to my own heart. I had some heart wounds, I had some heart protection, and I carried stuff from the past like we all do. And so when I moved out of my head and into my heart, I ran into some of that trauma, some of that pain that made it difficult to go any further. And so what did I do? Same thing most people do, is I pulled away from that pain and retreated back to the safety of my conscious, rational mind, and then got stuck there, right? And then the mind spins and you begin to worry more, think things, and go around and around. So this book really takes you through the process of getting off that merry-go-round, going into the heart, first figuring out what that protection is there and how to get past it, how to work with that protection and go into the feeling heart that lies beneath it. And then one of the next steps is to work with that flood of feelings and emotions that comes once heart is open, and those come. But the other thing that opening the heart does is not only let emotions come out, but it opens us to being more able to receive love, to let it in, because when the heart's so protected and shielded, it's hard to let it in. And once we go through some of those hurts and wounds, then the book takes you through connecting with different parts or aspects of your psyche, really. Some people call them archetypes, right? So there are different parts that work within us. There's certainly inner child. And I think primarily there's two parts of inner child. There's the wounded child that's in need of love and attention and healing. And there's what I call the wonder child. It's that playful, spontaneous, creative, and closer to our authentic self part of our child self. And reconnecting with that brings more joy, more spontaneity, more playfulness back to life. I think when I first started teaching, I was very serious because I wasn't so in touch with my child. Now I can play and have fun. in a class. I can get the job done, I can cover the material, but I think it's much more interesting and enjoyable for everybody and myself. A couple of the other really important parts that there are practices to work with are the protector. There's a function that we all have to keep ourselves safe from being hurt again, or to get love and to get acceptance that we all want, right? So we have this protector that's working often in a very unconscious way. And one of my favorites to work with that can be a challenge is the one I call the inner critic. It's that inner voice. You ever hear it, Bruce? The inner voice that says, you're not enough, you're not good enough, you should have done that better. It's not usually directed towards other people, although it can be. But our inner critic, whose job really it is to have us do our best, is the one that so often is eroding our self-esteem, saying, what'd you say that for? What'd you do that for? You could have done that better. No, don't even try to write that book. You'll never get that done, right? So our inner critic really is there to keep us safe in a way and prevent us from, trying to get us to do our best, really. But the way it often works for us, more often than not, slows us down, causes trouble. And you don't want to make an enemy of the inner critic, but it is a part of your own self that you want to engage into a relationship with. You know, start the dialogue with it. Find out why it's working the way it's working and what it's trying to accomplish. Become a team. And part of one of the exercises is to have these parts adopt a different role or a different job description, really is what I call it. If your inner critic becomes your inner advocate, it's much easier to live life and accomplish more in your daily life. And once you process some of these different parts or aspects of your psyche, then we start to dive even deeper. And that's where Sophia's work really comes in. And that's beyond the stuff that happened to you growing up as a child. It can include that, but it's stuff that you inherit, that each of us inherits from our ancestors. Today's my father's birthday. He would have been 99 today. I thought, what an auspicious day for my book launch, right? And in the end of his life, or the last part of his career, really, my father went from being an airplane mechanic to teaching, to training pilots and other flight personnel for ground training, what to do if cases an emergency on a plane. So he was a teacher for the last, 15 or 20 years of his life. And I thought, I never really had the aspiration to be a teacher, but I've become a teacher and I really love it. And I think I'm really good at it. I had to say to myself, this is something I inherited from my father. It's a beneficial trait and a talent and ability from ancestors, right? He may have gotten it from someone before him. And so we all have talents and abilities from our family lineage, but we also have some real junk that we're carrying from our families and for our families, right? One of the things that I think my cousin's here, Janine, she knows. One of the things that my mother lived with was there's not enough. There's not enough money. There's not enough food. There's not enough. And I realized some years ago that was something I inherited. But it didn't start with me, and it didn't start with her. It started before her. And so in the ancestral healing part of the book, we work with that stuff that comes through generations. We work both to receive that which is beneficial, but we also work to return back to its source, those things that are really causing us trouble, things we carry out of guilt and responsibility. And what's the big one? Chime in here anytime if you want, Sophia. But it's often out of loyalty. Out of loyalty from my parent, then I carry this guilt, this shame, this anger, this illness, this pattern, right? So people work with addictions and different patterns in their life, but they do not all come from behavior or from childhood or earlier life experience. Some of them are patterns that are brought in through the lineage. And so we have practices in the book that help solve those. And not just by releasing them to the universe or being free of them, but by sending them back to the origins, so that we're not only healing ourselves, but we're giving the opportunity to the others before us who carried it to resolve it themselves too. And that's one of the beauties of this work, is that it's not just the individual that you're healing, not just yourself, or if you're a practitioner, not just the person you're working with, but you're working with many of them that came before yourself or that person that you're working with. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm often saying, what is motivating you? What is your motivation in life? And when we turn around to those who came before us, we often uncover hidden dynamics or unknown problems, fears, terrors, whatever it might have been, traumas, which are pushing us literally into the back, into a certain direction in life, which we are unaware of. And once we turn around and uncover what really needs to be acknowledged or grieved over or returned or taken in, we can turn around to our own future with possibly a resource or a source of strength behind us versus the dynamic which was before, rather something which was pushing us towards a fate which maybe not even was our own, which was carried us through us, or we looked towards something which we weren't even aware of. So that's really, I think, for me, a very, very important dynamic to resolve, so that we are not blindly driving through life, kind of pushed by certain traumas behind us, but that we really turn around and can really face our own path, and ultimately also tune into what really our soul's meaning and purpose is, versus still resolving trauma after trauma after trauma, or being stuck in certain patterns which might be playing out in relationships, or which might be playing out in your health or mental health issues, or in certain beliefs, like Paul said, the belief of whatever we carry, I'm not good enough, I could never do this, there is not enough. Whatever our belief sentences are, they might not necessarily belong to us. And as long as we don't uncover that, we are not really free to connect to source and our soul and really understand what we came here to do. That's ultimately, I think, the most important thing to understand. You are in this temporary body as the spiritual being or soul being. And then once you really understand what is it here? What am I working on? And when you look behind you and you turn around, that obviously is part of your soul's journey and understanding. And then once that is incorporated, then you can shift on to like the real headline of your life. That's kind of how I see it.
Yeah. Yeah. So the next, thank you. The next step after the ancestral healing, and not that they all have to be done in order, but it's really the next layer, going from the very tangible, like the hurt feelings, to less tangible, the ancestral stuff that we inherit, and receiving the strengths from our ancestors as well. And then we go into maybe even less tangible, and that's one of my great loves, and that's reconnecting with our own inner wisdom. So people come to us for life between life regression and past life regression, and I love doing them. But so many times people are looking outside themselves for wisdom, looking outside themselves for guidance, looking outside themselves for information, and neglecting the fact that deep within us, there's tremendous wisdom. There's great wisdom within you way beyond your intellect. But how do you get there? How do you listen to it? So when I had my near-death experience, when I was out of body and didn't have to deal with my limiting mental mind, I was free of it, I heard the words, listen. Listen. Listen to your heart. Listen to your soul. Listen to spirit. It said, you have a good mind, but you depend way too much on it. There's great wisdom within you. Pay attention to it. Listen to it. And I was sort of like, well, how do I do that? It took me time to learn how to do that because I have a pretty busy mind and I had pretty substantial heart protection, but you can do it. And the practices in the book show you how to do it step by step. And once you're able to connect with the wise woman or the wise man or the wise one within, you'll have so much more reliable guidance than depending on someone else for it. And then you can use your mental mind to say, okay, so my heart, my soul says, this is really the path for me. Then I can use my mind to figure out, well, how am I going to do that? And I think once we're more connected with our own inner wisdom, then we can really connect with our soul essence. There's something I met, if you will, within myself one day during meditation that appeared to me as more or less as a pilot light, a small little flame. But as I paid attention to it, it grew to a bigger flame, a brighter flame. Eventually, it seemed like a raging bonfire that invited me into it. And as I went into that fire, it enveloped me. It seemed to burn away a lot of the limiting beliefs, a lot of the painful emotions, some of the survival strategies that were tripping me up. It burned through that. And I began to know myself as something more than my ego mind or something more than my personality. I really made a connection with and met my soul self. And I'll tell you, my human personality and my soul nature are quite different. My human personality would say, no, I don't want to sit here. I don't want to go on a stage, or I don't want to go in front of however many people and talk about this kind of thing. It's more shy, introverted. My soul says, no, you need to do that, right? And it's been a conflict for me for a long time. But I've learned to listen to my soul despite that. And sometimes it's still painful, but it's very rewarding. It means I'm fulfilling what I've come here to do. But first, I had to learn to listen to that voice and not discount it or just ignore it. Or, I mean, I'm sure you know how it is. But these practices to help you reconnect with that soul self, that authentic self. And I'll tell you, it's hard to have low self-esteem. It's hard to be judgmental of others when you're more in touch with your own soul self. And then once you're in touch with your soul self, the practices in the book take you to connecting with your own guide, because we all have guides. Sophia's come to calling them her team, and I think that's perfect. I've been connecting with my team too, because just like it took a team to write this book, I think it takes a team to live. It isn't just my soul all on its own on this planet, interacting with other confused people. There's a team there to support us and work with us. And in addition to that theme of not enough that many of us carry, one of the other big themes that many of us carry is I'm all alone. It's just me, or a related one to that is, well, there's something wrong with me. I'm not enough, or I'm defective in some way, right? I mean, I know I lived with that for a long time. And it's hard to see yourself or others as defective when you're more in touch with your own soul and you have the support of your guides. So the book is both stories. It's not case studies, but it's stories from cases. It's stories from my own life. But there are many practices that are in the book that you can repeat. And, you know, in the audiobook version, there's a professional, Tom Parks, who's an actor and a book reader, who did a beautiful job, I think, of reading the text of the book. But what Brilliance did was something brilliant. I think, is they ask me to read the practices. So in the audiobook, you'll hear Tom Parks reading very professionally the text of the book, but then the practices are in my own voice so that they're at the right pace and tone to guide you through them, right? In the written book, of course, they're written out and you can record them or read through them and then do them for yourself in meditation. But I guide you through them in the audiobook version. And of course, we have workshops, we do individual sessions where we do this work too. But my idea with this was really to make it available to all of you so that you can do it for yourself. And if you're out there teaching people hypnotherapy or the kinds of healing work, the book is really intended for you to be able to incorporate these practices in the work that you're doing with others. It's very complete, I think, in many ways. If you work with me, you know some of them already, I'm sure, but some of them may be new to you as well. How would you feel about experiencing one of the practices? Would you like me to guide you through one?
I'd love that.
Okay.
Yes, please.
Okay. So I'll do that. I just ask if you would please to mute your microphone if you have it on for now. And then when we finish, I'm going to open it up. And if someone has a comment about the book, as far as they've read it so far, or a question about the processes of the book or something in it, oh, it's so nice. I see other screens now. I see lots of friends from Istanbul, from Madrid, from Croatia, from, I don't know where Vlatka is now, somewhere, Canada maybe? No? Okay. So for this, we'll do it briefly, but for this, you want to get comfortable. And then you want to let your eyes close. And then you want to bring your attention to your breath. And you want to take some longer and deeper, nice letting go breaths. Beginning a process of relaxing both your mind and your body. Just begin that process of unwinding. Unclenching. And letting go. You can even say to yourself silently, I relax. I release. I let go. And as you say those words to yourself, do just that. Relaxing, releasing, letting go. And then taking another nice, deep, letting go breath. You can remind yourself, I am safe. Right here. Right now. Don't have to say it out loud. I'm safe right here, right now. I relax. I release. I let go. And then you want to begin to use your wonderful imagination. And you want to imagine yourself in some place where you feel very, very safe and calm and relaxed. This can be a favorite beach, a forest, a garden, wherever that is for you. And you want to use all of your senses to, as vividly as possible, imagine being there. So you might hear the sound of the wind in the trees. You might hear the sound of the waves, or even the stillness. Perhaps you smell the sea, or the plants and flowers. But wherever it is, you want to, as vividly as possible, imagine it with all of your senses. And as you do, your body responds as though you are truly there. You change your brain and blood chemistry. Muscles relax. Breathing slows. And you go deeper and deeper within. And you bring your attention now to the very center of your chest, your heart center, the center of your feelings and emotions. And you breathe and you feel into this heart of yours, inviting it to open. For this is the doorway to your inner world. And as you open your heart and you breathe and feel into it, you will find that there are some feelings, some emotions that will rise to the surface. Let them come. And notice what you feel. Notice how you feel right now. And as you open heart further and go deeper within, towards the very core of your being, notice what it is that your heart longs for. What does your heart long for? And make note of this. Notice what it is your heart needs. If you can provide it with that need here now, do that. And if it's something that you can do later, then tell your heart that you will do this later. Just keep feeling, breathing into your heart. More aware of it being open. more aware of what it needs. You can gently, gradually become aware of your body once again, your feet on the floor. You might wiggle your toes, moving hands and arms, feeling the chair, couch, or cushion beneath you, coming all the way back. When you're ready, really grounding in your body, letting your eyes come open again. Just aware of how you're feeling in your body, aware of the energy that we as a group have just created, the heart connections that we've created. And so this practice is the beginning of most of the other practices in the book, because it requires a more quiet mind and a more open heart to do this deeper inner work, because it's not an intellectual process. There will be that too, but that's not the focus. The focus is inner healing, connecting with heart and inner wisdom, resolving some of the junk that we all carry. Feel how different you feel now, right? That was just a few minutes. Imagine doing that repeatedly. So I'd like to take our last, 10 minutes that we have to open this. If you have a question or a comment, if you've been reading the book and have something you want to say about it or ask about it, I want to give you the chance to do that now. You can just unmute your mic and ask or say what it is you want to say. I don't see everyone on the screen, so I apologize if I don't respond right away. I'm going to make it bigger so I can see more of you. There we go. So many people from around the world. It's beautiful to see. Istanbul, Scotland, Spain, Chicago, California, Portugal, Croatia, Woodstock.
Well, Paul, I would say something if I can.
Please.
This is Billy here in Iowegia, also known as Iowa, state of Iowa, 1,000 kilometers west of Chicago. When I got the book, I was really happy because I was really excited to read what you would put together, not knowing what you put together. But when I started reading it, I just realized it was 2012 when I visited with you and Sophia and others for the basic and advanced hypnotherapy course. And there's still so many things from all of that course that are vibrant in my practice in terms of, I always feel like my words are really just your words, Paul. What really has impressed me about your book, what really is so wonderful about your book is that it's so much like the actual training that we did back in 2012, 13 and 14, 11, 12, 13. It's so full of practical applications, so much opportunity to do things and not just listen and read about them, which I think is so important because there's so much that doesn't happen unless you actually practice it, unless you put it to some use.
Yeah.
And it's a breakthrough, I believe. I really find it a fascinating and hands-on kind of work. I think I might be biased completely, but I much like how Michael's book, The Breakthrough, I feel like yours is too.
Oh, thank you.
yours creates a wave of just activity that I think is going to help a lot of people pick this work up and use this work.
Well, I
So-
certainly feel inspired by Michael and feel like he really helped me with it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, both from this side and the other. Yeah.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Good job, Paul.
Well, I
Thank you.
felt the same. It's funny, I felt the exact same thing
Mhm.
as I started reading it. It's almost, I felt like I was back in your workshops. As you read the book, it feels like you're actually at the trainings that you do. And, it was almost like you're giving people the opportunity to do the work at home, with the book. They get the tools. Obviously, there's nothing like having the presence. I won't question that. But it's almost like you're there with us as we read the book. That's what I felt. I felt that as I was reading, you were right there next to me and telling me how to do the different techniques. And I think that's a great gem because, obviously there are a lot of self-care books out there, but this one really gives you the techniques that obviously that we need, and it really feels like you are there with us as we read the book. That's what I felt, so I couldn't agree more. And I think it's going to be an important tool for many people, and especially in these times. Maybe I know you're going to start your presential workshops, but as long as you are unable to have people that will be at these workshops, these people will have the opportunity to do these techniques from their home, and that's such a, I think that's everything that you could have, and the best thing that you could have. So I'm really happy that you've actually finally had this book for all of us. It's something that we've always wanted. And I know, accompanying many of your workshops, I always felt that I wished that there could be a book that we could then also give the different people in these workshops. And it's finally here. So I'm so happy.
Yep.
And I want to congratulate both you and Sophia, of course, for this wonderful work.
Thank you. And you're right. It has a presence. When we unbox it, we got 3 copies to start with, so we have something in our hand. And it has a presence. It has a life of its own. It really, we felt it when we unpackaged it. Yeah. Yeah. It's something more than just me. Yeah. And, we're going to do our first in-person Essential Healing Workshop, July 10th and 11th in magical Pietrasanta, Tuscany, Italy. Woo! Keep fingers crossed. That's the plan. We had to take a year break, but that's the plan.
Wonderful.
Wonderful. Yeah.
Wonderful.
Someone else?
I would like to say congratulations, and it was really a long time until this book saw the light, and this will be a lifesaver, a life changer for many people. I think like the way you teach and you work, this book is a reflection, and whoever got in touch with you knows how you work, and this book is just like a crown to all that work, and definitely so many people will benefit from this in many different ways. And I'll just continue recommending it to my students, future students. So thank you, Paul.
Welcome. Yeah, and within a year, it'll be in Spanish within a year. It was picked up by a Spanish publisher. It's being translated, and it'll be published in Spanish. That'll be the first foreign language.
Great.
That it goes out in.
Thank you. Great news. Thank you.
Yeah. So if you want to know more about the book or the work that we do, paularan.com is the website. Courses are on there. My email is paul@paularan.com. You should find it on there. I think before we ran out of time, it was important for me to say that. And the book's available on all the booksellers. It's at Barnes & Noble, Indie Books, Amazon. It's everywhere. You got it, Ashley? Yeah. Great. Yeah, it'll be in Turkish too next year, hopefully. Working on that now. Yeah. 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 And yeah. Thank you everyone for being here. Really
thank you,
appreciate
Paul.
your support and kind words and interest and yeah, energy for making this a reality. It couldn't have been without you. And Michelle, thank you for my book signing pen. I'm still trying to figure out how to do it on the screen, but here it is.
So awesome.
I'm
Really.
looking forward to see you use it. I'm
Well,
glad you like it.
I used it for my notes, but it'll be for books now too.
Yeah, lovely.
Thank you, everyone.
And thank you. Yeah.
Peace be with
Yeah.
you.
thank
Mhm.
you. Mhm.
Yeah.
Thank
To you too, sweet.
And all those who helped.
Thank you.
Many blessings to everyone.
Yeah.